Hello and welcome to the Pawn Pro podcast. Today we
Hey,
have on Jason Sheffield. Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for joining today.
Hey, I couldn't be happier. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Let's kick things off maybe with a quick intro, who you are, where your stores are, what the names of them are, and how you got in this industry. You are a fellow multi-generational pawnbroker. So tell
Yeah,
me.
my name's Jason Sheffield. I'm from Albany, Georgia, Leesburg, Georgia, small rural area in southwest Georgia. Population around maybe 80 to 100,000 overall in the area. It's sort of the hub of this southwest Georgia region. But yeah, I've been here pretty well my whole life. I've stayed around and been one of the few that stayed around, but I've stayed around. But yeah, we got into the business in 1990. My parents started it up. My mom actually was the first one to start the business. She opened up our original store in downtown Leesburg in 1990, just on an inclination, just a hunch that just a friend of ours, we were sitting there eating dinner one night and they brought it up and planted that seed, and they got to talking about it, her and my dad. And my dad was a mechanic about 35 years into it. And, things were changing in that industry. Things have gotten a lot more computerized and things like that in that industry. So he was looking for a way out as well. And it just sort of happened at the right time. And she opened up the first store, had a little bit of success, found somebody that was interested in the way that she ran the businesses, really enjoyed her ethic and her personality, and he was interested in investing in us. So he funded the second store, which my dad actually retired from the mechanic industry, gladly retired, and got into the pawnbroking industry in another area of town, but we're still in that same area. So they opened those up in 1990. I was 10 years old. So, like I tell people, the bus you literally dropped me off at the store, So that was my landing spot after school. As a lot of us multi generational pawnbrokers know, we sort of grow up in the business. So it worked out that way for me. I give a lot of my attributes from my social side to all the above, to a lot of that, spending that kind of time in the store, just getting to know
Mhm.
different walks of life, talking to different kinds of people, and just really enjoying the company of people in general. And I tell my employees that to this day. If you don't enjoy being in the company of just the different facets of people that you're going to deal with, then you might as
Yeah,
well not be in this business. You're never going to enjoy it. So either
totally.
way, but yeah. So that's sort of a brief intro as to how we got into the business. As far as the rest of it goes, of course, I got into it later on whenever I was approaching graduation in high school. I tried to tinker around with some different things, but how the family business called me back. They needed a little bit of
Look
help. I went,
you.
yeah, oh yeah. So
Yeah.
I I went into it at 17 pretty well, as full time as I could be, and then started college. Went into that and maintained the presence at the stores as much as I could, and in the process picked up some stuff on jewelry. So that's sort of where my love for jewelry came into play. So
Yeah, let's talk about that. So you found a passion in jewelry and then you went and you're certified and you're educated in that. So what did that look like for you?
yeah, so getting into it, and this was 1997 when I first started. I just came to realize that a lot of our business was in that jewelry area, and a lot of our profit was made in the jewelry area, in the metals, more or less, namely gold. Back then, we literally had like foam, 72 ring foam insert trays that we had like $20 rings, $30 rings, through the season. And the ladies would come in and buy 10 at a time, so we'd have to size all of them. And it was just a lot of work. I had my brother, he couldn't keep up with it. So his presence was needed out front. So I was the grunt. So I was cleaning jewelry, and in the process, got to help him a little bit with the repair side. Got to figuring out I was pretty good at it. So they sent me to school close by. It was in Alabama. Gentleman by the name of Homer Holland. He was he was later in, I mean, probably in his late 70s at the time, but I mean, so much knowledge. The man was so smart. I mean, such a great person to teach. And I went through all of his courses I could go through pretty much. Graduated from that course, and it was like a week long course, and you had to take them and then sort of work a little bit, and then work on what you're doing, and then try to take another one. But after taking that, I graduated with my master jeweler certificate in 2001. I wouldn't call myself a master jeweler, but that's what they coined me in 2001. But I still had a long way to go. But 2002, we opened up the original Dawson Road Pond, which is sort of our flagship now. Um, we opened up that store in 2002 with me at the helm, and I was sort of doing the jewelry repairs, pretty heavy in jewelry repairs, customization, remounts, and things like that. Anything I could do on the jewelry side. And I opened up Dawson Road, of course, is the name of the road I opened up on. Just sort of establishes us as in the jewelry center of our town. And so I opened up right sort of smack dab in the middle of everybody, and placed my emphasis on jewelry. Started taking in the diamonds and dealing with the gemstones. And I had taken an introductory course at the Holland Jewelry School, but I didn't know near what I thought I knew. So after a couple of mishaps, needless to say, I realized I needed to go to school. And the gentleman in town that represented, probably was one of the people I looked up to the most, was a graduate gemologist through GIA. So that was who I sort of looked up to. I sort of followed his footsteps, joined up with the GIA graduate gemologist program. It was the distance learning, but it was very in depth. To this day, I would say above college. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life as far as a personal accomplishment like that. It took a lot of self-discipline and things like that. Probably had to do with the distance learning aspect of it. It was on the early days of that. 2002 was very early in distance learning. So I went to Atlanta for about a month and went through the lab classes. Then I actually flew out to Carlsbad to the headquarters and finished my course up. It took me another month, but I had to evaluate about 500 gemstones, and it was a lot. But anyway, so finalized that, got done with it, and so came back home and started trying to make some money. So, and
That's
here we are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
huge accomplishment.
yeah.
I remember, my dad had like a central jewelry location because he had so many stores. All of the stores would send everything into a central hub. And sometimes I worked in there and sometimes I worked in the store. But I loved like receiving inventory in and opening all the envelopes and looking. But
Oh yeah.
most people there were GIA certified, and I would just remember like how hard that was for people and how in depth it was, and the binders and binders and binders that they would have like on the
Yes, yes. I mean, it is overwhelming sometimes whenever you get to thinking about the evaluating gemstones and
yeah,
going through all the different things about diamonds and the different aspects, the treatments, the things to
totally.
consider when you take them in. It's truly an art, and even my employees now. I mean, we go through the training courses that I can put them through, and I would say they're as experienced as anybody around, but it's still tough. I mean, we still get challenges every day. I mean, now with the lab
Yeah,
diamonds coming on board, and having the prevalence that they have right now in the industry, we've got to really be careful. So
totally. Yeah, it
yeah,
feels like things will also always things like that will always present like more training and more learning and more required specialization.
yeah, it
For
never
people.
stops.
Yeah, it never stops.
Hmm.
So lab grown might be one challenge you're facing today, or at least it's like an evolution of in taking in jewelry. What other challenges are you facing this year or right now?
Well, just in general, the overall consensus is that it has been this way for the last couple of years, but we've been pawning more than we ever have, and I think that's everybody can probably say that across the board. We're facing challenges now, such as not being able to get the proper amount of cash from the banks. I mean, just to simply get the cash to run day-to-day operations. I mean, that's one of the challenges I've been facing personally, because of course I'm working more of the back end now, but trying to do that, and it seems like our inventory is just it's exploded over the last 6-8 months. We're having to, you know, manipulate prices, and where we were once we're going a quarter of retail, now we're drawing that back because we've got these fees and those percentages off the e-commerce and things like that. We've got to cover. So I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things that we've got to consider, and it's not easy with these employees. I mean, if you want to keep the good ones, you got to keep increasing their pay to a point. I mean, they're not going to hang in there with you if you're just keeping their pay stagnant or whatever. They're expecting a certain level of compensation for learning new things and doing new things. So the more I expect of them, the more they expect of me. So
Yeah.
either
So
way.
let's talk about two things there. The first is banking relationships. So, do you have them? How have you, I guess, fostered them? Um, and what does getting financing for you look like right now?
Yeah. So I mean, when it comes to banking relations, we've had a pretty good relationship with banks for a long time in this area. We try to deal local as much as possible, just because we like the idea of being able to walk in and actually see people face to face.
Mhm.
And two, again, I guess one of the positives from being in the town as long as I have is you grow relationships from that as well. I mean, I'm in similar circles with a lot of them, similar social circles. Some of them I can truly call a friend. So I've got. I mean, we spread our stuff out a little bit. So I'd say we've got probably about four banks on tap when it comes to reaching out to. And I'm not saying that we haven't been able to at this point, but I haven't incurred more challenges as of late than I ever have. When I say, I may need whatever, 10,000 and 20s and 5,000 and 10, whatever it may be. They're like, well, it might be next week, next Tuesday before I can get you the 10s, but I might can get you the half the 20s today, but let me call
Yeah.
the other branch. So, but
Nearly everybody that I've talked to for the podcast has mentioned banking and sort of strategy around banking relationships, and being able to have some type of credit line with banks is sort of top of mind for everybody. So,
yeah,
similarly, most people recommend finding like a local bank and building relationships there. But it's nice that you have a few backups as well.
yeah, we've been fortunate enough to grow some relationships on that side. And I mean, we're relatively small. I mean, when it comes to a lot of the pawnbrokers and the ones I've reached out to in other arenas, it seems like, I mean, we've got two stores now. We shut down the Leesburg store in 2012. We opened up our North Slappy location in 2010. So we've got two stores. And we operate sort of in the center of town. So we're busy at each location, but we don't run into some of the issues. Like we haven't, knock on some wood, we haven't run into the credit line issue yet. We self-fund for that. And I mean, of course, gold sales have came to the rescue on some extent. We've really used our golds strategically and sort of held back a little bit in reserve for moments like this.
Yeah.
But those reserves are running out quick. So we're
Yeah.
facing those kind of challenges, and you know, looking at the long term of the gold. I mean, what is that going to look like now that gold is approaching probably $2,600 today? I haven't looked at it, but I'm pretty well certain it's hit $2,600 an ounce by now. So when we talk about $2,600 gold spot, I mean, I've got customers that they bark over the $2,000 gold spot I was pricing my jewelry out a month and a half ago. So
Yep.
yeah, it's a serious issue that we all need to really look at, and how we're going to look at the future. Is the gold going to continue to come? I don't think so. You know,
Mhm.
I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be a plausible solution in the future. Gold is not going to be there to rescue us in the future. So what are we going to turn to? You know, is it going to be firearms? I doubt it.
Yeah.
You know, so
I was gonna ask, like, any categories that you think would be um, not a replacement category for gold, but something that you can start to diversify in?
well, well, honestly, Tally, when it comes to in our industry, what we've been doing, I guess the latest things we've been trying to do is really focus on our e-commerce efforts across the board. We've been trying to strategically blanket a lot of areas and cover areas that might not be, I'm not saying suitable for eBay, but I
Yeah.
am saying, like, um, whereas, say, for example, musical instruments, okay, we've got our musical instruments on eBay because they're easily ran through Bravo, right? But when it comes to, there's other platforms that sort of specify, they, they, they specialize in musical instruments. And so we've been trying to put those on there. We've also got, trying to get in with Whatnot. I've got some younger people working
Yeah.
with me that have really brought in the whole idea of Whatnot. And we were at that conference, and I went to that seminar where they were talking about it. And one of my managers is all into the hype things. Like, I know nothing about it. I know nothing about it. It's foreign to me, but I loved his enthusiasm and his excitement for it. So I let him run with it. And now
Yeah.
we're dealing with shoes, and we're dealing with luxury goods, and we're dealing with the watches. I mean, well, I've always dealt with luxury watches, but we haven't ever dealt with it from that standpoint. So
Yeah.
here we are with collectibles and baseball cards and things that I haven't dealt with in years, but here we are. So we're
Can
trying to
you
to move
can you
into it.
describe for people that don't know what like social selling or like whatnot is?
Yeah, so Whatnot is the best way that the guy described it to us in that seminar is it's like the modern day version of like QVC or Home Shopping Network, but it's just like a guy in his garage or a guy at his house. Anybody can do it, right? I mean, you go live and I'm sitting here selling you a shoe, or I might be spinning a wheel and you buy a spot on the wheel and you run the it's almost like just playing a game of sorts.
Yeah.
But it's super energetic. Usually it's involved. The people get people involved. They're talking, they're mentioning names of
Yeah.
people that are in the live with them. It's really intriguing. And from my standpoint, if I was 20 years younger, I'd be all over it. But
Yeah.
but right now I'm like, man, it's all I can do to hold down what I've got. So I need you guys to take care of that. So
Yeah. That's awesome too, and have employees that spearhead initiatives like that. I was just on a call with Entropy earlier today, and I was asking about new segments of business for them, and obviously pawn is a huge segment for them, but the fastest growing segment is social selling, and he mentioned Whatnot and a handful of other similar platforms. But that's where luxury and authentication is growing the fastest, or the need for authentication is in social selling. So you guys are right on top of that. That's awesome.
we're trying the best we can. We haven't signed on with Entropy yet, but I do. I went to his seminar as well, and I'm looking into that. I mean, we need to get some authentication, guarantees and things of that nature.
Yeah.
My manager that I was telling you about that sort of started up the whole um, Whatnot site and got all that going. He is very good at authentication of shoes, the luxury goods. We're getting better at, not 100%, but we're getting better at it. But we don't get as much of that down here as they do in bigger cities and things like that. But
Yeah.
the shoes are a big thing. He's got an accreditation from the Shoemaker Academy, so he's got that accreditation.
Cool.
He's backed up for with some stuff like that. Down here in South Georgia, big time firearms area, we sell. I'd probably say 60 to 70% of our sales are probably firearms right now. Um, there's a lot of challenges going on in that market. Always has been our lowest margin market. So it's one of those kind of turn and burn, all about quantity kind of situations. But you know, we're just sort of sitting on our hands right now, waiting to see what's going on and waiting to see what the future holds. I mean, of course, anytime you've got an election year, everybody sort of holds on and sort of waits and holds their breath to see
Yeah.
which way everything's going. But we'll see how it goes. I mean, we've got a lot of things to look forward to, but man, we've got to watch every penny we're putting out right now. I mean, we've had this talk near. It seems like I'm like a broken record. I'm speaking about it every morning about we need to watch what we're putting into this, and we need to watch what we're putting into that, and
Yeah.
so but yeah, I mean it's there's definitely a lot of changes coming that are exciting but nerve wracking as well.
So, in talking about, training your employees and getting people motivated, it sounds like you have an awesome manager. We talked a little bit about incentives and pay and things like that. Like, how do you create the culture at your stores that you want? How do you incentivize your employees, not just maybe monetarily, but how do you get them excited about what they're doing?
Well, I think that the leaders, like my energy, sort of reverberates through our company. I think that has a lot to do with it. I mean, truthfully, I mean, when it comes to whether you're playing a team sport, and sometimes I like to relate things to team sports because it just seems like these work environments just resemble a team sport so much. So, I mean, you're only going to be as good as your leader when it comes to what kind of energy they pump into the atmosphere, how they push you, how they challenge you as an individual. I mean, how they know you as an individual, how well they know you as an individual, how they address you from a day-to-day basis. I make a point every day. My managers, I mean, I've got one that's been with me from almost day one. He's been with me for over 20 years now. As close as I could call. I mean, I would call him family over friendship at this point. Me and him have been the best of friends since we've been 12 years old. He has walked this walk with me and through the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, I mean, from him, as long as I've got something, he's going to have something. So, and he knows that. So, and I've got one that's been with me for a relatively short amount of time, but he has really made a splash. He's the one that I'm talking about with the hype items and a lot of the other things. He's breathed that breath of fresh air into our company. Provides a wonderful vibe and a wonderful energy that he injects into our company every day. He drives the younger employees to really do better and strive to be better. And they both provide that mentor that they're looking for. And I love to see that. I love to see that sort of next generation being molded the right kind of way, and they're representing our business in the right light. So there's that. We've got another gentleman that's sort of our firearms expert, if you will. We've got him accredited in range safety, so he's providing our safety training on firearms, as well as sort of heading off all of our orders and orders and objectives on the firearm side of it. It's a lot to keep up with because we're turning through this stuff at a rapid pace and a lot faster than we ever have. So he's heading a lot of that stuff up. A lot of our e-commerce stuff he heads up. Couldn't be more proud. I've got a number of employees that do a lot of stuff. I've got one gentleman that's heavy into games and movies. Several ladies that are great at the games, movies, and jewelry and everything in between. So couldn't be prouder of the group that we've got. And of course, I need a couple more. I need a couple more, as we all probably do. But couldn't be happier of the group we got right now. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I think culture starts at the top. It can never be delegated. And I think about that a lot in how to motivate our team, and that, our team takes care of our customers similarly as your team takes care of your customers. And so I spend a lot of time thinking about motivating and recognizing and building like the culture that I want to work at every day, because I want to love where I work. it's important that employees love where they work too, but like I
Exactly.
also want to love where we work. So
Hmm.
I spend a lot of time and effort there. I think that that's the time best spent. Um, okay, switching topics for a moment. You converted over to Bravo. Wanted to talk about that experience. We obviously have a ton of new Pond Master customers that are coming over to Bravo. Um, I think we're maybe approaching 100 stores a month, which is a lot. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about your transition over to Bravo, what that was like, how it felt, how you adapted. You're also I would say, tech adopter. You've got E44. You're using ecom. So maybe just talk a little bit about that switch and how you made it through kind of the hard parts, which are
Yeah.
inevitably.
So it was probably 2018, somewhere around there, that my mom sort of took the back seat, went into more of a semi-retired state, and I took more of her job. That found me more. I found myself more in the back, relegated to doing the back end work, the accounting, the billing, the stuff that nobody really wants to do. The job that none of us really want to do is somebody that loves to get out front with the people, and I really truly love the business that we're in. So it's really hard for me. It was hard for me for a long time to get back there, but it was really hard. It was getting really hard with Pond Master, being able to go to the different places I need to go to, raise a family. Taking a simple vacation, a weekend vacation, was almost impossible. Um, I started looking into cloud-based options, and although Pond Master offered, or they advertised that they had Ignite on the way, it just never showed up, And every time I would speak with one of the support. I can't remember their names, but um, anyway, they would just basically say, "Well, it's on the way," it just never happened. And we were with Pond Master from 1992, so we were a DOS customer. I mean, I remember, the early days.
Yeah.
Press one for a pond, two for a
There's
buy, three
still
for a
some dot
layaway.
users out there, so
Yeah. So I
they
mean,
exist
we were
still.
the old
Yeah.
dot matrix printers, and anyway. So um, we did that. And rolled all the way through with them. And then, basically, make a long story short, in 2020, we made the decision to move over to Bravo, because it at the time seemed to be the best cloud-based solution that we had at our fingertips.
Hmm.
So that was the number one reason. I got it with Fiona.
Hmm.
Fiona was great from the get go. She got me lined up with everything I needed. She was very thorough with her questioning, and how what we needed and all the stuff. We were using E4O for our e-commerce platform. As we know, that's like a third-party software, so it was
Yep.
sort of operating outside of Pond Master, but with Pond
Yep.
Master. So it was sort of hard to get it working all the time. So yeah, we made the move over to Bravo. Loved the all the aspects of it. Couldn't be happier with the being able to be on this laptop right now. I can view anything at any time at either location.
Yeah.
I can log into either store. Uh, Shoot, I can make a transaction if I want to. I can
Yeah.
change prices, whatever I need to do, no matter where I'm at. I mean, so it's a beautiful thing to be able to do that, and a liberating thing to be able to do that, especially like we talked about. I've got a young family. Um, to be able to have that freedom to be able to sort of live your life, and that's something that we all as pawnbrokers know how confining the businesses can be. Um, it's a tough business to be in if you're sort of, and that was what kept us there, was the
Yeah.
software, more or less. So the
Get finding
software
that balance.
itself, yeah, the software itself has been very liberating. Mobile Pawn has been great. Used to, we would have no less than probably 30 to 40 phone calls every day trying to make payments. And it was just exhausting trying to
Yeah.
process payments over the phone, understanding what people are saying. You got store full of people in front of you. It's just frustrating, you know. Um, so we went ahead and got the mobile pond initiated. That's currently bringing in more than what the phone calls were bringing in before. You know, the messaging reminders. We don't utilize that like we should. We probably should do that more, but that's another thing I'm really excited about trying to grow into more. The advertising, you can do text message advertising. I was paying a third party to do that for me, and so it's really great for Bravo to be that sort of one stop shop. I hate to sort of establish that kind of cliche, but it essentially is the one kind of software that everything sort of, it just hubs out from it. And y'all done a great job with creating a software that provides that kind of solution to our industry. And I mean, I can't thank you enough for doing that. It's made my life so much easier from that manager / owner standpoint, and enabled me to truly live my life and be able to be at my kids' ball games, my kids' practices, coach my kids. Whereas as I was growing up, I was lucky if my parents even showed up to a game because they had to stay at work. You know, I mean, they couldn't trust anybody to stay there with them. So
Totally. People get tied to that counter. Can't leave.
Yep. But yeah, the onboarding process. Raphelia was our onboarding manager. She was great all the way through. Got us on board, and from there on out, I mean, we've pretty well got everybody trained up. I mean, the video training program was wonderful. Every one of our employees goes through it, and so we have been nothing but satisfied from day one. So.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
One last question for you. For somebody new getting into the industry, what would be your advice to a brand new pawnbroker?
Have a lot of money.
Yeah.
No, seriously. No, seriously. It is a different ball game now. I mean, our industry has changed dramatically, and I think most people just aren't prepared for the first year of being in business in our industry. I would recommend, if you can partner up with someone that has had not just worked in a pawn shop, but has truly owned and operated a pawn shop. Yeah. If you can somehow tap into that knowledge and possibly partner up with them on some level, I would highly recommend it. This industry is not an industry that you can get trained for quickly. It is one of those kind of lifetime learning industries where you can only get better at it. You'll never know everything. You can just hope to get better and better every day. Not a day goes by that I don't learn something new. So when it comes to somebody new in the industry, be very careful, because the money that we're putting out right now in our industry will really take up the majority of what most people are probably thinking really quick. So be very careful. And it takes a long time to establish that kind of what we call the role, to get your pawns established to a point to where they're covering your bills, and things like that. So be very, very careful and very apprehensive, or be well funded, or be partnered up with somebody that really knows what they're doing and can put you in the right position and all that, because it's dangerous right now. I would venture to say it's one of those kind of things to be very careful with. Approach that very carefully.
I think that's great advice. Well, thank you, Jason, so much for coming on. It's nice to see you again. Hopefully
Absolutely, Tally.
In Atlanta next summer.
Yeah, hopefully so.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming on. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.